Hey, what's going on, guys? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today I am super excited because we get to take a look at a really awesome gaming laptop. This is the MSI Katana GF66. And when it comes down to it, there's two main reasons I'm very excited about this unit here. For the GPU, we have the RTX 3050 Ti. I haven't been able to get my hands on a laptop yet with that GPU, so that's going to be a big plus. But this is also powered by the all-new Intel i7-11800H mobile CPU. 8 cores, 16 threads with a turbo clock up to 4.6 GHz. And with a pairing like that, this should make a really nice little 1080p laptop. Plus, we have that CPU power to spare when it comes to some of our favorite stuff to do on this channel, emulation. So before we start testing this thing out, let's go ahead and take a look at the I/O. Over here on the left-hand side, we have a single USB 2.0 port and a single USB 3.2 port. Moving over to the right-hand side, we have full-size HDMI, USB Type-C 3.2, another full-size 3.2 port, and a 3.5mm audio jack. This does have a full backlit keyboard and a nicely sized trackpad, but unfortunately it's a single color backlit keyboard. We're going to have to stick with red here for MSI. When it comes to the Katana GF66, they do offer this in a few different variants. You can pick it up with the 3050, the 3050 Ti, and the 3060, plus they have some options for the screen. The model we're going to be taking a look at in this video just happens to have the 1080p IPS 144Hz display. It's a 15.6-inch display, and it actually looks really good. Very minimal glare because it's IPS, and even though we're only using that 3050 Ti, we can still take advantage of the 144Hz refresh rate here in certain esports games. Before we move over to the specs and testing, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by Micro Center. They were kind enough to send over this laptop for review. I will leave links to their website in the description. But one cool new thing that they have over in the website is the Micro Center Platinum Collection. These are high quality name brand desktops and laptops, and I've actually taken a look at this one here, which is the HP Pavilion Gaming with the 5600H and a GTX 1650. A really nice little laptop for the price, but they're also offering the new MSI Katana here, the GF66, which we're going to be taking a look at in this video. Plus, if you're looking for a decent desktop, or if you want to go with a different brand, they have the Asus TUF line listed over here in the Platinum Collection also. Links for this will be in the description, and I do want to give Micro Center a big shout out for sponsoring this video. When it comes to the specs of the MSI Katana, for that CPU, we have the new i7-11800H. 8 cores, 16 threads, base clock of 2.3 GHz with the turbo up to 4.6. We also have the NVIDIA RTX 3050 Ti, and this does utilize GDDR6 RAM. 16 gigabytes of user replaceable DDR4 at 3200 MHz, a 512 gigabyte user replaceable NVMe SSD, and a 15.6-inch 144Hz 1080p IPS display. One thing I always like to do is just take a look at the upgradability, so let's go ahead and pull the back off of this thing. As you can see, they have added a ton of ventilation to the bottom of this thing, and they have copper heat pipes on the CPU and the GPU. We have a single fan cooling the CPU and a single fan cooling that GPU. This also gives us a choice of adding a 2.5-inch SSD over here. There's a little foam block that you'll need to remove, but you can put a 2.5 in here. And this will come in really handy when you want to upgrade the storage because unfortunately there's only one M.2 slot in this PC. As for the RAM, this is running in dual channel. We have two 8GB sticks here. If you do opt to pick up one with only 8 gigs, chances are it's only going to have a single stick in here, so you could easily upgrade. Or we could go all the way up to 64 gigs if you really feel it's necessary. I was really hoping to see an extra M.2 slot in here so we could add another NVMe SSD, but they have left us with the carrier and the connection for a 2.5-inch drive, so we could still easily upgrade the storage on this thing. This is running Windows 10 Home right out of the box, and it's been really snappy. I mean, I expected it to be with that 8-core, 16-thread i7 CPU. As for bloat, there are a few things installed here, like Norton Security, something that I completely uninstall as soon as I get a laptop. It's basically installed on everything. And we also have the MSI Center. And from here, we can kind of change user profiles, go to performance mode, silent, battery saver. We can also download proprietary MSI drivers through here, and there's a monitoring system that'll give us some information about the CPU, GPU, and RAM usage on the unit. So bloat on this thing really isn't that bad. MSI Center does take a little bit of RAM in the background, but with those user profiles, I think it kind of makes up for it. And if you opted for the 16GB version like we have here, you'll never notice that app running in the background. So let's go ahead and jump right into some testing. We're going to start out here with Forza Horizon 4, and then I want to run some benchmarks. We'll test out some more games and things like that. I'm going to film the screen at first and then we'll connect it to my game capture. So far, so good. I'm actually really impressed with the performance here out of that 3050 Ti. I really wasn't worried about the CPU not keeping up, given that we have such a high boost clock on that thing and 8 cores. We're basically good to go with anything we want to throw at that CPU. For me, it really came down to the 3050 Ti, and with Forza Horizon 4, we're at ultra settings, 1080p, and I'm getting an average of 103 FPS out of this game right now. And even though we can't get 144 Hz out of this game at ultra settings, having that high refresh display over 60 definitely makes a difference to the naked eye. It's just a lot smoother. So the next thing I want to jump into are some benchmarks. First on the list, we have Geekbench 5 with a single core score of 1565 and a multi of 8495. I'm really glad that they added those 8 cores and 16 threads here because it really helps out with that multi-core performance. When it comes to Cinebench R23, we got a total multi-core score of 11,254, and as you can see, it's way above that i9 9880H. Moving over to some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark, here we have Firestrike with a total score of 12,616, and TimeSpy came in with a 5,737. I gotta say, when it comes to these benchmarks, the 3050 Ti is definitely not a slouch given the price point of these laptops with the 3050 in it. But we really need to get into some gaming. So first up, we have Control. Afterburners listed up in the top left-hand corner. 1080p, medium-high mix. Most of this stuff is set to high. I did have to turn a few of them down to medium so it wasn't dipping under 60. But with the settings like this, I got an average of 67 FPS out of Control. Witcher 3 did amazingly at 1080p, high settings. I could probably jack this up to ultra and still get over 60 with it, but I just left it at high. And we got an average of 96 FPS. When it comes to Call of Duty Warzone, I actually didn't think that the 3050 Ti would perform this well. We're at high normal settings, and we got an average of 116 FPS out of this. If you went down to normal, maybe a normal low mix, there is a chance you could get 144 out of this to utilize the built-in screen here. Here's Fortnite, 1080p, high settings. We average 156 FPS with this one, so this is one of those games that would really take advantage of that 144 Hz screen. Here's GTA 5 1080p with a high, very high mix. This did really well. We got an average of 106 FPS by the end of my run. Definitely more than playable, and if you just wanted to lock this at 60, there is a chance we could go up to very high with most of these settings here. Dirt 5 with a high medium mix. Unfortunately, again, I did have to turn some of these down. This is just a harder game to run, but most of the stuff is set to high. I turned some of the shadows down to medium. We got an average of 65 FPS out of this one. And finally here, we have Cyberpunk 2077, which did way better than I thought it would. 1080p, high settings, DLSS in performance mode. We got an average of 63 FPS. So in the end, I'm really impressed with the performance that this little laptop's putting out. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I wasn't really worried about the CPU not being able to keep up with our favorite games. It really came down to that 3050 Ti. And it's definitely trucking. I mean, it's trying its hardest and it's doing an amazing job. When it comes to CPU temps, keep in mind that this was just sitting right on my desk. I'm not using a laptop cooler or anything like that. At idle, 37 degrees Celsius. Video playback, we averaged 48. While gaming, on average, 83. And in a 10-minute stress test, it did hit 101. That was maxing out all 8 cores and 16 threads. So it did thermal throttle that CPU in my stress test. And you know, I kind of expected it would. It's in a laptop. If this was a desktop, it'd be a totally different story. So yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of this GPU and CPU combination, and I'm also a big fan of this laptop here. I will have one more video coming up. I definitely want to test out some emulation on this thing. I'm not worried about the 3050 Ti not handling, even up to PS3. For me, it really comes down to this 11800H being able to handle everything, especially those higher end emulators. If you're interested in learning more about this or maybe picking one up, I will leave links to Micro Center's website in the description. And speaking of that, they actually have a promotion going on right now. If you follow the link in the description, put in your email, you can get a coupon for a free set of wireless headphones in store at your local Micro Center. So definitely check that out. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. And like always, thanks for watching.